When Dr. King was going through all this, I know with some of the files that have come out, we know that the FBI was suggesting that he kill himself and was using a smear operation, even going as far as sending information to his wife. Mr. Wexler, if you could, over time, do you think that there is some way to inform the American people about the counter-tel pro type of activities more in depth without giving unwarranted support for the kind of dirty tricks, unvetted smut, etc., that none of us should have to hear about people we respect, especially when it might not be true?
I think there's definitely a way. I think the way you do it is you delineate between process and substance. And I use substance very loosely. So if you want to say, release information that says, in a file, right? On X day, this agent planted this device in so-and-so's hotel room at 5:48 in violation or contradiction to orders from the Attorney General's office. The public should get to see something like that. But right afterwards, you're going to probably have a whole bunch of information that was obtained from what was almost definitely, if you know anything about how the FBI surveillance worked at that time, a grainy microphone in a closed room that's interpreted by biased people who are out to smear the people they're interpreting. Mm-hmm. Their bosses are on their case to give them material that they can leak to the media to smear somebody. I would redact that stuff. You can tell me about the process without giving me stuff that, as I can probably get to in later points in time, I know of examples where they've had obviously false information that it snowballed into even worse false information, and it's in the files. We don't have people who are alive now who can even tell you that it's false. And so that's my worry, that it's going to be just continuing Hoover's dirty work for him.
So you would consider that with interpretation as basically like planted information with the intent to smear reputation?
And not just planted. I mean, it's not like Hoover was discerning. If somebody went to him with really bad information, the worse information it was, the happier he'd be to put it in a file and then go over to some congressperson's office and say, hey, look at what I learned about Martin Luther King or John Lennon or President Kennedy. He was terrible with that. So yes, I would agree with you.
And can you remind us again what were the Merkin files and what was the Merkin investigation?
So Merkin, the FBI likes to abbreviate their investigations. So like the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church is called Bat Bomb. Merkin is the FBI shorthand for the murder of Martin Luther King. It was the investigation that emanated right after April 4th. It was all 55 field offices in the country, multiple field offices overseas, central headquarters. They were all in what was one of the largest manhunts, one of the largest investigations in FBI history, dedicated to try and investigate the crime. And what's so good about what's released is that material, even when it's, silly leads, it's all about the crime. It's not about trying to smear Dr. King.
Dr. King, I know that you had spoken earlier, and thank you for being here again today, about the impact that this had on your family specifically. But when Dr. King was going through all this, I know with some of the files that have come out, we know that the FBI was suggesting that he kill himself and was using a smear operation, even going as far as sending information to his wife. But you being, a little girl at the time, do you specifically remember, can you speak to what you remember and how that impacted your family from a personal perspective? Ma'am, please turn on your microphone so we can hear you.
I certainly do remember. I've had 75 years of these experiences. So I was born in 1951. Around 1956 or so, my uncle, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., my father, Reverend Alfred Daniel Williams King, they were brothers, they were preachers together, young fathers, family men together. So very loosely, we and my own family experienced what we call wiretaps. And their excuse for it, taping or tapping all of us, Uncle and Mel and Daddy, they were brothers. They were in and out of each other's houses, shared each other's telephones. So there ended up being files, not only on Martin Luther King, but our whole family. And you could, in those days, the wires would crackle, and you could hear the wiretaps, and we would know that somebody was listening. I don't know if you can imagine this, but I was a young girl. '63, I was 12. I Have a Dream speech. I grew up, had little boyfriends and things, and got married the year after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. So I became an adult young woman. And so my own little private conversations were being listened to under the excuse of, we've got to hear what Martin Luther King Jr. is doing. So this is not secondhand information for me. It happened to our whole family.
Mr. Hamadachi, can you maybe speak to, there was this intentional smear and I think excuse that Dr. King was a communist. Can you speak to why he was branded as such and how that might tie into what the NSA was doing with the illegal surveillance of Dr. King?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was an attack on the civil rights movement, and they were looking for justification to try to illegally wiretap Dr. King. And so obviously we were in an era in this country where being a communist was seen as being something who's a threat to national security. And this is the sort of thing we see where people violate the constitutional rights of Americans, often with the idea of there's a foreign intelligence purpose. And these end up being defined fairly broadly, so pretty much everything becomes a foreign intelligence purpose. And many of the abuses we saw of Dr. King and other civil rights leaders were along these lines, basically saying, oh, these people are communists, so we can do whatever we want.